Amazon, and the group of experts you will be meeting later on. Mondiacult these days, I guess Barcelona will be, cultural capital of the world. I guess those are the words of the day. A lot of topics, you guys know more about them, but a lot of uncertainties, a lot of unknowns, a lot of important issues. I don't think it's the first time that humanity faces the, transformational impact of technology on culture, right? Not the first time. We've been here before. But there is one thing we know, and there is one thing we are certain about. The correct answers to those unknowns and the meaningful answers to those open questions can only come if different people come together. If the public sector and the private sector and cultural industries experts come together. Easier said than done, right? I don't think we live in times where different people get together that much and different perspectives are brought on the same table as often as it should happen. This is what this project is about, and this is what makes us really proud. We have been working for weeks with UNESCO experts, with Amazon experts, and with culture experts to bring to you the results today. So that makes us especially proud. The session today is the result, and we're here to present to all of you the recommendation paper that came out of these discussions. The agenda for today is understanding the paper, sharing with you guys the thought process, the recommendations, the attempt to connect the dots by having all those different perspectives on the table. Véronique Guèvremont, who's the panel rapporteur, will be introducing later on the discussion, the recommendations, and the experts. There will be time for questions from your side of the aisle. And yeah, let's hope this is a meaningful discussion, a lively discussion for all of us to leave the room later with at least a few answers more clear in our minds. Not everything will be solved, but hopefully it'll be useful. We're very happy to be supported by the Ministry of Culture hosting this conference. Good luck and congratulations to the ministry and the team. They've been making a huge effort for months, and here we are, Carmen, so congratulations. Carmen is the Undersecretary for Culture, and she will be sharing with us some opening remarks to open the discussion today. So Carmen, please, if you want to come here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, good morning, everybody. Buenos días, bon dia a tothom. Benvinguts a Barcelona, benvinguts a Mondiacult. Welcome to Barcelona, welcome to Mondiacult. I am truly delighted to welcome you to this event. We've been working for months, as Borja have just said. And particularly, I would like to welcome to this side event on digital culture. It is a privilege to meet you here in Barcelona at such a key moment for the future of culture. Allow me to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to UNESCO and Amazon for the joint efforts to organize this debate on analyzing and reflecting on the state of digital culture nowadays, its impacts on arts, creators, cultural agents, and citizenship. In just a few days, it will be 20 years since the adoption of the Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions. Since then, the digital technologies have had the greatest impact on our world, leading us to speak of a digital economy. The impact has been especially relevant in the cultural sector. While in 2005, cultural streaming service platforms had not yet emerged, we have just to think that the Kindle store was created in 2007. Today, the cultural habits of our societies cannot be understood without a digital culture. The digital economy is increasingly occupying more space, and the creative and cultural industries are not an exception. These transformations holds the potential to empower creators by offering them tools, platforms, and new opportunities to share their histories in all their richness and diversity. Nowadays, it's not an option to embrace digital innovation, as these technologies are essential to strengthen the cultural ecosystem and to ensure that creators can build sustainable livelihoods. But at the same time, for contributing to a vibrant and diverse global cultural landscape, we should take into account other aspects. First, this transition must be inclusive. We must ask ourselves, who has access to this transformation? The digital shift must not leave anyone behind. It must serve to bring culture closer to rural communities, young people, persons with disabilities, and those historically undeserved, ensuring that the benefits of digital culture are equitable and far-reaching is not only a moral imperative, but a shared responsibility. Secondly, we must recognize the potential of digital culture to foster the cultural diversity. In a world where content transcends borders instantly, we have an unprecedented opportunity to elevate local voices, promote indigenous knowledge, and encourage multilingual expressions. In Spain, we are aware of that. The use of all our languages, Spanish, Catalan, Basque, and Galician, are essential to preserve and promote our cultural heritage. Ensuring content in all languages and from all regions finds a place in the digital sphere, and it is essential to a truly inclusive culture future. The discussions we are holding here as part of Mondiacult will shape not the current cultural policies, but the future we would like to build in which culture continues to thrive in a connected, diverse, and inclusive world. For all the above reasons, initiatives like this one are essential. I would like to thank all the experts who participate in the discussion on how the digital economy impacts the cultural sphere. And also, obviously, I would like to thank the organizers for sharing the conclusion reached. I hope you find this event really fruitful and have a really nice stay here in Barcelona. Thank you, Borja.
Thank you, Carmen. Carmen referred to the future, right? And that's what the report tried to do. You have it here, and the QR that will be on the screen allows you to check the conference material, including the report supported by Amazon and UNESCO. Digital culture for all by 2035. That was the challenge we gave to our experts. Let's just not, take note of the state of affairs today. Let's try project not too far away. Let's not be too ambitious. 2050 is far away, but 2035 is just around the corner, right? So that's what the report tries to do. We are now going to share the experience with you with a video of these intense weeks of work. And then Véronique Guèvremont will come on stage and introduce the report and the experts. So if we can see the video, and hopefully you'll get to know more about the process. Thank you.
Puis, on a eu l'occasion ces dernières années, en tout cas moi comme experte, d'échanger non seulement avec les artistes, les professionnels de la culture, mais aussi avec les représentants d'État, même avec l'UNESCO également, sur tout ce qu'apportent ces technologies numériques. Cependant, il y a eu beaucoup moins d'opportunités d'échanger aussi avec des acteurs qui jouent un rôle extrêmement important dans l'environnement numérique, tels que des entreprises comme Amazon.
Compartir experiencias, diseñar políticas públicas y pensar en el futuro es la manera más importante y más eficaz para proteger la cultura de todos.
Como esse documento contribui com o Mondiacult e o que há de diferente, eu diria que a principal diferença é a estratégia de apontar um cenário no futuro e, em seguida, fazer uma correlação com aquilo que está acontecendo no momento. Isso permite que fiquem muito mais claros os riscos, fiquem muito mais claras as oportunidades que o documento traz na discussão sobre cultura e o mundo digital.
To keep it super short, I think AI fundamentally is not a creative tool, essentially. It's a creator's tool, which means that it is a tool that creators have at their disposal that can enhance their work, that can overcome some barriers, that can enable them to be more creative.
And I truly believe that culture, in whatever way that's defined, whether it's in the pursuit of economic means to make money out of it, or just as a way to, to calm yourself when you're feeling anxious, or to be part of a community, whether it's at a choir or at a museum or whatever, I think we're going to realize that those are the most powerful ways that we can come together to address big problems. And I hope that by 2035, we'll have a completely different world that is based on humanity and humility rather than nihilism, greed, and selfishness.
Buenos días a todos. Good morning. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je suis Véronique Guèvremont, professeure à la faculté de droit de l'Université Laval, Québec. Et j'ai agi dans le cadre de cette initiative à titre de rapporteur. Et c'est à ce titre qu'il me revient ce matin de vous présenter les travaux qui ont été réalisés par les 4 experts impliqués dans ce projet. Ce projet aborde des thèmes sur lesquels l'UNESCO travaille déjà depuis plusieurs années. La création, l'accès, la diversité. Ce sont des sujets qui sont bien inscrits au cœur de la Convention sur la protection et la promotion de la diversité des expressions culturelles adoptée en 2005. Et ce sont aussi des thèmes que vous retrouvez dans les directives opérationnelles de cette Convention, les directives opérationnelles de 2017 qui guident les États dans la mise en œuvre de ce traité dans l'environnement numérique. Et ce sont aussi des sujets sur lesquels ont travaillé un groupe de 24 experts l'an dernier et qui ont mené à la formulation de 11 recommandations publiées en décembre 2024. Et à titre introductif, il me semble pertinent, important de mentionner, qui se dégage du document qui vous est présenté ce matin, une grande cohérence avec ces instruments et avec les travaux qui ont été menés jusqu'à présent sous l'égide de l'UNESCO. Les 4 experts qui ont participé à ce projet ont toutefois suivi une toute autre trajectoire pour parvenir à la formulation de leurs recommandations, dont nous vous parlerons dans quelques instants. En fait, ils ont commencé par la fin. C'était un exercice assez intéressant, je dois dire, pour en avoir été témoin. Ils ont commencé par discuter du futur, en fait d'une vision optimiste du futur qu'ils souhaitent voir se concrétiser à l'horizon de 2035. Cette vision du futur se caractérise par un écosystème numérique qui se veut inclusif, diversifié, durable et surtout fondé sur les droits humains. C'est aussi une vision dans laquelle la diversité linguistique est pleinement protégée. Elle est même un fondement, un pilier de l'environnement numérique. Une autre caractéristique de cette vision est l'accès équitable de toutes et tous à l'environnement numérique. C'est-à-dire que tous et tous ont non seulement accès aux outils, aux infrastructures, mais ils ont aussi les compétences et les connaissances pour tirer pleinement profit de cet environnement, pour participer pleinement à la vie culturelle dans l'environnement numérique. Et surtout, la créativité humaine est omniprésente à la fois dans le monde numérique, mais aussi dans le monde physique. Une fois cette première étape achevée, les experts ont quitté ce monde du futur pour se confronter à la réalité, c'est-à-dire au contexte actuel. Ils ont partagé leur perception des tendances qui se dessinent et surtout des risques et des opportunités associés à l'essor des technologies numériques dans le secteur des industries culturelles et créatives. Puis enfin, les experts ont formulé leurs recommandations, c'est-à-dire qu'ils ont identifié une série d'actions à entreprendre pour avancer collectivement vers ce scénario de 2035, tout en tenant compte des tendances, des risques, des opportunités qu'ils avaient précédemment identifiées. Next one. Avant de parler de ces actions, on peut s'attarder brièvement sur les risques et les opportunités. Mais très sincèrement, je pense que les personnes qui travaillent sur les technologies numériques et les industries culturelles et créatives, et vous êtes plusieurs ici dans cette salle, vous êtes bien au fait de ce qui est énoncé ici. Les risques sont de diverses natures. Ils sont culturels, bien sûr, mais aussi socio-économiques et environnementaux. Par exemple, au niveau culturel, l'un des risques qui préoccupe grandement les experts, c'est l'abondance, la surabondance même de contenu culturel, un phénomène largement accentué depuis quelques années par l'essor de l'intelligence artificielle générative. Pour les experts, il y a réellement un risque pour la créativité humaine. Au niveau économique, l'hyperconcentration du marché est aussi identifiée comme un risque important pour la diversité des expressions culturelles. Mais les 4 experts s'entendent aussi sur le fait que ces technologies ont un potentiel énorme, notamment pour améliorer la participation à la vie culturelle, pour promouvoir la diversité linguistique, l'inclusion, ou encore pour faciliter les échanges culturels et accroître les marchés. C'est donc en ayant en tête tous ces éléments que les experts ont défini des actions pour tirer davantage de bénéfices des technologies numériques tout en limitant les risques identifiés. Ces actions doivent, selon eux, être guidées par 3 principes directeurs. Le premier, c'est que l'accès universel à Internet doit être reconnu comme un droit fondamental. Les experts considèrent ce principe comme un prérequis et je pense que cette vision est aussi partagée par l'UNESCO. Le deuxième principe est que les technologies numériques doivent être au service de l'humain et du créateur et non l'opposé. Et enfin, la coopération internationale dans ce domaine doit impliquer toutes les parties prenantes, États, société civile et acteurs privés. Enfin, voici les 9 actions qui ont été définies par les experts, regroupées sous 3 thèmes. Les personnes, les processus, la planète, people, process, planet. Thank you, Shane. Ces actions sont évidemment présentées plus en détail dans le document auquel vous avez accès, mais je vais me contenter d'en extraire simplement quelques idées principales. Les actions sur le premier thème sont fondées sur les droits humains. Elles renvoient à la protection de la créativité humaine, la protection de la diversité linguistique également, qui doit devenir un fondement, comme je l'ai dit, de l'environnement numérique. Le respect des droits culturels, bien entendu, et y compris, vous le verrez dans le document, la reconnaissance de la paternité des œuvres dans un contexte de création par intelligence artificielle, et bien entendu, la littératie numérique qui doit bénéficier à tous, et ce qui inclurait, selon ce à quoi les experts aspirent, c'est une intégration de l'IA et des compétences numériques dans les systèmes éducatifs à tous les niveaux. Sous le deuxième thème, Process, les experts recommandent, entre autres, de documenter la valeur économique et sociale de la culture et des infrastructures culturelles. Je pense que c'est un élément essentiel. Je sais qu'ici, à Mondiacult, il y a aussi tout un plaidoyer en faveur d'un objectif culturel, un 18e ODD culture. On a besoin de donner, on a besoin de reconnaître, de comprendre cette valeur économique, culturelle, sociale de la culture. Un autre élément, une autre action est de garantir l'accès à tous à l'environnement numérique, mais en développant, entre autres, parce que les experts ont beaucoup travaillé sur la diversité linguistique, en développant le sous-titrage, le doublage, la traduction grâce au développement de grands modèles de langage dans toutes les langues, en particulier les langues minoritaires et autochtones, et aussi d'accroître le désir de découvrabilité. Découvrabilité d'une diversité d'expressions culturelles, mais aussi, en lien avec les menaces identifiées précédemment, les risques, mettre en place un label pour mettre en valeur la créativité humaine. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de découvrir une diversité d'expressions culturelles, mais bien de découvrir aussi ce qui est créé par les artistes, les êtres humains. Enfin, 2 dernières actions portent sur la planète, l'environnement, soit le développement d'infrastructures numériques durables et le déploiement d'initiatives visant à sensibiliser le public aux impacts environnementaux des technologies numériques. Et dernier élément, comme le montre cette diapositive, il y a une grande cohérence entre les actions qui sont prônées par les experts et les thèmes qui sont au cœur de ce sommet, donc de cette rencontre Mondiacult 2025 à Barcelone. Évidemment, les technologies numériques, c'était bien entendu bien inscrit au cœur des actions formulées par les experts, mais aussi les droits culturels, l'économie de la culture, l'intelligence artificielle, l'éducation et l'action en faveur du climat. Alors, je voudrais maintenant inviter les panélistes ici présents à venir échanger sur cette démarche, cette initiative et le contenu de ce document. Alors, nous aurons d'abord avec nous Joëlle Bénard, qui est directeur des politiques publiques Amazon Europe. Bienvenue, Joëlle. L'un des 4 experts, oui, Shane Shapiro, l'un des 4 experts qui a participé à cette initiative. Shane Shapiro est fondateur et président de Sound Diplomacy. Et nous aurons une 3e panéliste qui est dans une autre salle en train de parler. Ah, elle arrive tout juste. Elle présentait un autre rapport. Andrea Detmer, consultante à l'UNESCO pour la section culture. Bienvenue à tous les 3. Parfait timing, Andrea. Je vais vous laisser respirer un peu. On pourra peut-être demander à Joëlle et Shane d'abord de répondre aux premières questions. Mais la première question s'adresse tout de même à vous 3. On a un temps limité. On a 20-25 minutes pour échanger. Alors, je vous demanderai d'être assez concis dans vos réponses. Et donc, cette première question assez générale, qui est la suivante, qui renvoie, vous n'étiez pas là, Andrea, mais à mes propos introductifs, dans lesquels je soulignais qu'il y a tout un travail qui se fait depuis de nombreuses années sur la diversité des expressions culturelles à l'UNESCO, et y compris l'impact des technologies numériques. Et les parties à la Convention de 2005, par exemple, ont adopté dès 2017 des directives opérationnelles sur la mise en œuvre de ce traité dans l'environnement numérique. 2017. Pourquoi alors est-ce que vous pensez, tous les 3, que c'est important d'avoir ce dialogue-ci maintenant, à Mondiacult 2025, cette conversation sur la culture et en particulier sur ces risques et opportunités que génèrent les technologies numériques pour la diversité des expressions culturelles? Et peut-être je me tourne d'abord vers Joëlle.
Merci. Buenos días a todos. I will take it in English. But I'm delighted to see that we also speak French here because I'm French. Thank you, Véronique. It is important for a reason that was already mentioned, I think, which is that since then, a lot has happened, right? We have seen a real acceleration. We have seen an acceleration in digitization. We have seen also an acceleration in, let's say, the emergence of AI, artificial intelligence, which is probably the most transformational technology we have seen in at least one generation. And so it's important to kind of keep pace with those changes and make sure that we don't leave anybody aside, because there is, of course, when there is an acceleration, a risk that people could be set aside, could be left behind. So that's why I think it's super important to look forward, because you said it, Borja, it's 2035, it's tomorrow morning, but actually, given the pace of change that we are seeing, it's actually far away as well, right? So what I like in that work is different things. The first thing is that we have, and you said it, Véronique, we have worked backwards. And at Amazon, we love working backwards because we always start from people and what they need. And then we retro-engineer, you know, we look at what can be done to get there. And I think it's really an excellent approach, especially when talking about the future. What do we want to get in the end, right? And what we want to get in the end is what people need fundamentally. So that's one aspect of things. The second one that I think that paper brings to the table is really that multi-stakeholder approach, because, and we'll discuss that more in details later on, I guess, but a lot of what we need to do has to be done by different stakeholders, right? There are issues that can be sorted by governments, by like education primarily, even though private actors like Amazon can contribute to that. But there are others that depend on investment. We will discuss also the fundamental rights that the panel has identified. Of course, it depends on investment, it depends on innovation. And so only a multi-stakeholder approach can tackle that kind of multi-objective purpose. And finally, I will say that what I like also in the approach of that paper is really the risk-opportunity approach, because we tend to focus, especially when we discuss policy, we tend to focus on risks, right? But technology, artificial intelligence are a fantastic tool at this disposal of creators, and that's what I used to say, that this is really a creators tool at the disposal of creators, as opposed to a creative tool that would kind of autonomously create, you know, and that's how we have to view that tool and to view technology in general. And it's super important to keep in mind that to increase access, to increase discoverability, to increase, to enhance creation, those tools can make a big difference and sort problems that we have been facing for decades and that couldn't be sorted before. So I'll pause here, but that's why I really like that paper.
Thank you, Joanne. Maybe Shane, you can follow up on the same issue, and same question. In your view, what makes this paper, these recommendations, different from the other reports that have been prepared and published up to now on the same subject?
That's a good question. I'm not sure it is that different. I just think it's I think it's a great opportunity for a bunch of different players to come together. It's great that Mondiacult and Amazon and a few of us, that's kind of I've never had that type of experience where we've seen the openness, I guess, from all parties to be critical of themselves and of the broader environment. And, you know, I just hope that it sparks debate and conversation. I think that things are not good right now. I'm just going to be frank, right? We have a lot of challenges, and the challenges always fall on the creators first, right? And we are building, we have to make sure, we wrote in the report that we have to ensure that it is the technology that serves creators, not creators serving the technology. And sometimes I wonder if that's the strategy, is to have creators serve the technology. So to me, this report hopefully asserts the fact that we have to take a different approach, or take a slightly to this. And and that we don't, as I said, 2035. It was originally 2050, but then I complained. I'm like, you know, who knows? We could be all underwater or on fire by 2050. So let's start with 2035 and see where we can get to. And I think that if we have to center human creativity, full stop, in the decisions that we make about human beings. That's it. Why are we disassociating the creativity of human beings from decisions that impact human beings? And I think that that is going to drive us to a place that, again, continues to monetize division and continues to reward nihilism, as I said in the video, rather than focus on what brings us together rather than what tears us apart. So I hope this report is a positive contribution. I'm surprised and delighted that you all got up in this early in the morning for us. Thank you. This is early for me. I work in the music industry, to be honest. You know, and I hope that this is the start. It's just a report, right? Let's drive it forward and actually make the stuff that we've recommended. Let's make something happen together and create positive change.
Merci, Shane. Et Andrea, peut-être que je vous inviterai aussi à répondre à cette même question parce qu'on le disait, vous étiez dans l'autre salle il y a quelques instants aussi pour présenter un autre document sur l'IA et la culture. Et vous avez également été associé à cette initiative. Qu'est-ce qui en fait quelque chose de particulier pour vous, ce document qui est présenté ce matin?
Good morning, everybody, and thank you again for the invitation to collaborate. Thank you for Amazon, and thank you, Harmon, for the big coordination work, and Véronique. So yeah, I think we agree that AI is a radical innovation, transforming the ways culture is accessed, absorbed, impacted in different ways. But its adoption has been extremely fast in comparison to other radical innovations. And policy design is lagging behind because political systems are slow, but also because we lack certain key tools. We lack conceptual frameworks, we lack language, we lack understanding really what are the societal implications of AI and specifically in culture. And as my colleague have already expressed, we lack dialogue across sectors between the private sector, the public sector, the civil society, that are actors that actually have different needs, different perspectives. And we need, I think, to come together to the same table to say, look, I think A, I think B, they're different, and they may appear as even contested needs. But we need that kind of difficult conversation to occur so that we can move on. Because if we just continue among the circles of people, of organizations that think similarly to us, then we don't move on, because this is a systemic global challenge and global opportunity. So I think that this report, and hopefully the other one that we also prepared at UNESCO that I can comment later on, I think we're bringing that. We are advancing in understanding. We are advancing in setting, and this is, I think, quite unique or particular to this report in setting a positive vision. And I want to mention actually something on that, because you know, yesterday in a session on AI, a minister mentioned that she senses a lot of fear in the narratives around AI, and particularly in culture. And she expressed a wish for more hope. And I think that the methodology that was applied in this report is quite inspiring, in the sense that besides acknowledging the challenges that we know are there, it intends to set a vision that is positive, that is achievable. And I think that that gives us, let's say, some enhanced human agency in handling this issue, because sometimes we can feel threatened by this situation. And so setting a positive vision that is actionable, that is somehow agreed upon, these different stakeholders, it's quite important and unique. So we applaud the initiative and look forward to continue working on that.
Merci, Andrea. Je vais revenir vers vous, Johan. Je pense que tout le monde s'entend sur ce besoin, cette nécessité de faire collaborer le secteur public, la société civile et les entreprises privées. Et à nouveau, rien de nouveau dans le sens où dans la Convention de 2005, donc qui est la négociée de 2003-2005, on parlait déjà de l'engagement des États d'établir des partenariats entre le secteur privé, le secteur public et la société civile. On le répète dans les directives opérationnelles de 2017 aussi. Moi, la question que j'ai envie de vous poser, c'est qu'est-ce qu'Amazon en particulier a à apporter à cette conversation? Comment une entreprise comme la vôtre, aussi grande que la vôtre, qui a un tel impact sur l'environnement numérique, ce à quoi le public a accès en termes d'expression culturelle dans l'environnement numérique. Donc, comment est-ce qu'une entreprise comme la vôtre peut s'engager davantage en faveur d'un écosystème culturel numérique plus équitable et plus diversifié?
Well, in several ways, I guess. The characteristic of Amazon is threefold, right? And I will stop on each one. The first one is, of course, we are a tech company. We're a digital native, right? And so we understand the importance of access, of bringing online everything that was offline, right? Otherwise, we will lose some of that substance, and culture is particularly at stake here. And just to take one very simple example, the fundamental right that was identified by the panel of experts, it's not about deciding it, it's about making it happen, right? So how do we make it happen that people get connectivity? There are billions of people today, including, I think, 40 plus European households who do not have proper access to internet. So that's the start, you know. If you want them to access culture, to discover culture online, first they have to have access. So what are we doing about that? Well, we are deploying a constellation of low Earth orbital satellites that will help those hundreds of millions of unserved or underserved households around the globe to simply get access to those contents, get access to online content that can open their perspective. So that's just one example of how the private sector, because private sector can invest. We're not good at doing everything, right? But we can be good at investing, we can be good at innovating. And so it's important that we don't just issue statements, theoretical, but also implement those objectives in a way that we get there. And the second aspect of who we are is Amazon started in the cultural sector, right? We're doing today many things, but we started with books, then we went to CDs and DVDs, and today we have services like Prime Video, like Audible, like Kindle Direct Publishing that materialize or that kind of enable authors, talents to have access to their public, right? Just a few figures about that. We have more than 2.8 million, I think, talents on Amazon Music. We have hundreds of thousands of authors who are self-published on Kindle Direct Publishing. So that's a way for them to kind of access their public, to create, and to find new ways to create and to be creative in a digital world. So I think a company like Amazon that started in the cultural sector can kind of make that connection between digital and culture. And finally, I will say also that we have a specific culture that is based on enabling people to access a broad selection of works, right? We are not trying to impose a one-size-fits-all content. Instead, we are convinced, and that's our business model actually, that people have very, very diverse needs, and as a successful company, if we want to serve them well, we have to present them with a very broad diversity of works. And that's what we do in music, that's what we do in audiovisual. We have more than 500 Prime Video originals, for example. That's what we do in many domains, and that's really our credo. So it's not about one culture for all, it's about multiple diverse cultures for all.
Thank you. Et plongeons dans un secteur en particulier. Vous évoquez plusieurs secteurs. Chaque secteur a aussi ses spécificités. Shane travaille spécifiquement dans le secteur de la musique. C'est un secteur qui a été lourdement impacté par l'essor des technologies numériques. Il y a déjà plusieurs décennies. Maintenant, sans doute le premier secteur qui en a subi les plus grands impacts, mais aussi plus récemment par l'intelligence artificielle et la mise en marché de l'IA générative largement accessible au grand public et qui fait d'ailleurs en sorte qu'il y a beaucoup de contenu synthétique maintenant qu'on l'on retrouve sur les plateformes de diffusion musicale. Shane, vous qui êtes dans le secteur, c'est votre quotidien, je voudrais vous poser la question suivante à propos des musiciens en particulier. Comment s'assurer que les musiciens, ces artistes qui créent la musique, tirent pleinement profit des opportunités offertes par l'économie numérique?
I think there's a couple of things here. So first, I feel like there's one kind of fundamental issue that I hope we address in the report that really bothers me, is that everything kind of comes off from a victim narrative of that music is suffering. Who here could live without music? Okay. So we're suffering. It really bothers me that, we are the ones who are constantly being beaten down. We are the ones, Amazon's business model without music. Just throwing it out there. How much would it be worth compared? Yes, you have lots of other things. But I, as a Amazon user, I watched a Prime Video show last night. But that does really bother me because it creates this framework that we're always constantly like looking up and trying to scratch the surface. And it does several things. It devalues music, first off, as an economy. It makes people think that music should be free or cheap. It reduces the understanding of how music is made and how the supply chain around music works. This is why there is no supply chain in lots of countries around the world, unfortunately, which we're trying to change. And it makes it, to me, it makes it a nice to have rather than a need to have. And then you put the responsibility on the artist to figure it all out. You should figure it out. We'll create the system. We'll create all the roadblocks. We'll create all the barriers. We'll build all of this. And then you musician, you figure it out. It's up to you. And this just drives me mad. And I hope that this is reflected in the report. Is, again, what we do is, again, we're having the milk and just treating the cow for free by thinking, and then putting all the responsibility on the cow, right? And I think that we have to think about it differently. Is that, first off, music is an incredibly complicated economy, right? Because it's based on something that you can't see, for the most part. We can't literally see music, we can feel it. But when you can't see something, then you have to trade its value based on copyright and intangible value. And human beings are really bad at attributing value to things we can't see or dealing with things that we can't see, like the climate emergency, for example, right? Like genocide, if we're not involved in it. So like for me, the first thing is that we have to, first off, change how we talk about music and change how we understand music. And then recognize that there's an infrastructure in place that needs to be set up to ease access to it. We need the path of least resistance to the buyer. That is not just Amazon, but many companies' business model. Make it as easy as possible to buy stuff. You should also make it as easy as possible to get paid for stuff. And so what we need to do is I'm not going to get into the weeds, but there is an entire ecosystem and framework that exists behind the scenes that is meant to make things easier on creators, but unintentionally or sometimes intentionally makes things more difficult. And it's just, for example, the EU law of you have to opt out if you don't want your content being harvested by large language models. Yes, for a large company, that's totally fine. They can opt out if they choose to. But if you're an individual artist, that's very, very difficult. Where do you do that? right? There's several forms you have to fill out. And again, when you're worried about your rent and you're worried about, I just draw this, so I'm hoping, going back to the report, is if we centralize culture and the creation of culture in our lives, then we'll recognize that life cannot exist the way we enjoy it now without creators. Therefore, we need to build policy that supports them into our society rather than bolt it on when it suits us. So, and that is something that I'm going to continue to fight for and fight against. Stop victimizing creators. Imagine your life without music. You can't. Let's value them at every step of the way. And I hope that that's what you get out of the report.
Merci, merci Shane. Oui. Nous allons bientôt vous donner l'occasion de poser des questions, mais juste avant de vous céder la parole, une dernière question. Shane a mis la table en parlant d'un peu la suite, comment envisager en fait la suite de ce projet. En d'autres mots, après Mondiacult, comment est-ce que ce travail entre l'UNESCO, Amazon et d'autres acteurs, les États, la société civile, les experts, peut-être d'autres entreprises, pourrait se poursuivre? Andrea, peut-être d'abord, Johan et Shane aura le mot de la fin.
Thanks, Véronique. So for UNESCO, it's critical to promote an ethical use of AI. And the 2001 recommendation on ethics really sets the foundations for that. And we need to move forward in more specific aspects in culture. And I would like to share something that for me it's a really important idea that it's promoted among others by Professor van den Hoven from TU Delft about ethical approaches. And it's that an ethical response requires putting together or considering the perspectives of key stakeholders. And it's even more important when it's different or contesting views. So actually, ethics comes with the diversity of voices. And I think this exercise, and Mondiacult actually, aims at creating, let's say, ethical solutions based on that principle, that we are including the various voices that are impacted and that matter in this conversation. So Mondiacult continues beyond the event, of course. I think here we are sharing ideas, but I think also that in this specific matter, we are in a stage in which the key challenges and opportunity that AI offers in the culture sector are already identified. We kind of know what are the big issues, but we need to move forward now in collectively creating specific solutions for them. And I think we are not there yet. So some of the aspects that I think we need to advance on into more specific solutions are the transparency and the diversity of AI training data. How do we move on with that issue that is on the table, but it's not resolved? How do we move on with the fair compensation or benefit sharing, particularly for what we could call implicit and collective cultural expressions emerging from the aggregation of individual data points? So we know that that's occurring, but we don't have now a clear methodology to resolve it in terms of that fairness. And critically, in my perspective, something essential that we need to handle, and it's not only affecting the cultural sector, is the risk of de-skilling, that is of weakening human creative and cognitive capacities, because we might rely too much, let's say, on AI. So we need to find ways in which we use this tool, and at the same time we defend the humanity in ourselves, you know, and especially I think in kids and teenagers that might not have developed the muscle, let's say, of this creative and cognitive skills that may weaken now with the use. So these are some examples of lines that I think we need to move on in more specific conversations. The wide scope, I think we have it mapped, but now it comes the moment to take action, to walk our talk.
Thank you, Andrea. Johan, pour Amazon, il y aura une suite à cette conversation?
Of course, j'espère bien. I think what we have to focus on now is go do it, right? And how do we go do it? I think different stakeholders own different parts of the solution, right? For example, Andrea, you were discussing AI. We are using AI in several ways at Amazon. We use AI to enhance creative work, and that's one part of what can be done with AI. But we also use AI to facilitate access and discoverability. You mentioned it at the beginning. One of the most concerning issues that the team of researchers had in mind was, how can I find content in that kind of big ocean of content? And I think AI can be a solution to that by presenting a broad, diverse set of content in a way that is meaningful to users, right? And that's really critical, because otherwise you can have all the contents you want accessible, nobody will find them, right? On access as well, I'll take just a couple of examples. I already mentioned a few, but if you look at disabilities, for example, there are a lot of people, either because they are starting to age a little bit like me, or because simply they've been listening too loud of a sound when they were young, who have difficulties listening to dialogues, right? We can enhance dialogues in creative works, and we do that. There is a functionality on Prime Video where you can have a better access to dialogues. Therefore, you have a better access to the works. And there are many of those technologies that can be leveraged. I also mentioned, of course, what can be done for connectivity. So back to a report like that, different profiles can achieve different things. Of course, on education, a company like Amazon can support but cannot lead, because education is a common good. It's about how societies want to do stuff. Regulation is part of the solution. We stand in favor of regulation that promotes diverse cultural contents, but also is open to innovation, facilitates innovation. And so each stakeholder has a different thing to do. So my proposal to maybe conclude is that we reconvene, Andrea and the UNESCO team and Véronique, in a couple of years to see how we have progressed along those various work streams. And we take a look at maybe what culture will look like, or in 2040, Shane, to see if we are pushing the boundary or not on that.
Shane, you have the last word.
What's the question? No.
How do you see the next steps? How would you like the next steps to happen?
I'm hoping, I think, I just want to live in a reality that is pragmatic, that recognizes where we are, and that is hopeful. You know, the language of hope, when it comes to AI, it's great to have a language of hope. But unfortunately, if you don't have a system that builds hope in, you know, then I find the language of hope is hopeless. So I just want everyone to recognize that no matter where you live, no matter what you look like, you deserve to be paid for the work that you do fairly in everything, and that includes the creative economy. We need the systems in place to ensure that people, should they choose to pursue an economic future in the creative economy, and they don't suck, because lots of people, unfortunately, aren't good enough, but, you know, that they get access to that economic model. And unfortunately, we live in a world where you live and what you look like impact your chances of even entering into the creative economy. So I'm hoping that we can change that. I think that we can, having this kind of dialogue with these forward-thinking companies like Amazon and fantastic organizations like UNESCO, I think that will only drive us more positively into the future. And I'm hoping that, you know, next time you listen to your favorite record, whatever it is, or you look at an amazing painting, or you go to the theater, just remember all the work that went into that moment. And don't forget everything that had to happen for that moment to happen, and recognize we need to protect that so we can get the great art that we all love and enjoy and appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shane. We're running out of time, but should we take 1, 2 questions. Very, please, short questions and short answers from the panelists. So, yes, please, could you introduce yourself?
Thank you very much. Brigitte Vizna from Creative Commons. Thank you so much for this presentation. Congratulations on the report. I was particularly impressed with the recommendation on access to the digital environment. And I saw you listed the access to the skills, the competencies, the tools, and the technologies themselves. But I wonder if in your discussions you also mentioned access to content, access to the heritage itself, access to culture itself as part of ensuring that culture can continue to flourish in the digital environment, and if this is part of what you mean by access, and whether this access is qualified at all. Thank you.
I think yes. I think the word access, I'm hoping that the report and our mission was for that word to really be as open-ended as we possibly could make it. So it's like when I say, you know, the word music means something different to everybody, so does the word access, right? It could, literal, figurative. So yes, maybe we may have missed out adding a couple descriptors into the report, which I apologize. But very much so. I think one of the things that we actually spoke a lot about in the session, we did this whole day at UNESCO. It was quite intense. And we talked about language a lot. There are a lot of languages that have not been properly uploaded online. Wikipedia only has 340 languages. And when we talk about access, language is so important. So one of the things that we're hoping can come out of this report is a recognition that for us to truly protect cultural heritage and access to cultural heritage, a lot more work needs to be done around the preservation of language and its proliferation online, especially languages that are under threat for whatever reason. And I think so I think we focused on that, but I'm hoping that the report is meant to be genuinely egalitarian towards access in that sense.
Johan, you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just build on that. For us, for Amazon, providing access to the broadest possible content, cultural content, is really what we do for a living. That's really our big credo, I will say. We do that for books, we do that for video content, we do that for people who want to be published but cannot be published because they didn't find a publisher. Of course, for music, we have more than 2.8 million artists that are available on our services. That's really what we believe is the foundation, because if you don't have access, you cannot discover. And then, of course, there is a lot you need to build on that. How do I, having access, how can I discover those works? How can I really enjoy a qualitative experience and customer experience based on those works? But that's definitely what we think is the kind of foundation.
Yeah, I think, sorry, the last thing is again, all of the large language models are being built by a few companies that are mostly based in a couple locations, right? Most of them are based in Silicon Valley or China. I think all of them are. So if you know, thinking of the AI is learning through certain languages, and there's great examples of all these fantastic languages in, you know, in Nigeria, for example, that the access to the technological advancements through AI are less there because we don't have yet the framework to train on Yoruba, for example. So that's something, having more diversified, you know, access to how these models are trained. Because again, the models are trained through our biases, because we're the ones training them, right? So if that's all through a lens of Silicon Valley or China, that's how the AI is going to respond to the world. And that's something that we have to be aware of, and that's so much of that content that the AI needs to ingest is not digitized yet. So
True.
that's a big,
Yeah.
so literally trying to digitize stuff in, you know, just stacks and stack. There's so many record stores across some cities in Africa I've been to where it's literal stacks of records. And to me, it's a gold mine as a nerd. But I'm just looking, going, imagine if every single one of these was digitized and properly registered, right?
And that's
the
a great
power that
challenge
Amazon
to
can have.
take.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. That's a great challenge to take.
Great challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By 2035, we said, right?
It's just one
Voilà.
record store in
Alors,
Lagos. If we could digitize that by 2035, Prime Records.
Voilà un
it's
objectif
amazing.
précis pour 2035. Merci beaucoup à tous les trois. Je pense qu'on peut les applaudir. Alors, malheureusement, pas de temps pour plus de questions, mais la conversation peut se poursuivre encore toute la journée. Il est tôt. Et pour conclure, je redonne la parole à Borja. Merci.
Merci, Véronique. We've been told there's a drum parade, una tamborrada, in a few minutes, so we should, live, the intangible heritage can be loud sometimes. That's what we'll be facing, but let me invite you to go back to your seats, to the panelists. Thank you, Véronique, Joanne, Andrea, Shane. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. We leave the room with several messages about human agency, about the need to embed human creativity in public policy. And I think there's an invitation to look at technology differently. When Joanne says technology is not a creative tool, it's a tool for creators, I think it's an invitation to look at the role of technology differently. We are very lucky to have with us Ernesto Ottone. He's the Assistant Secretary General for Culture at UNESCO. UNESCO is hosting this wonderful conference. Ernesto, we're going to leave you share the final words. Encantado.
No, I was hearing the discussion. And we can live with Spotify and at the same time loving the record shops in our neighborhood. So I'm more a buyer of tangible records, but we can live with both. There's no issue there. There's no contradiction. Let me first of all tell you that this partnership, and it has been a long discussion even in our convention, the 2005 convention, what we do with private sector, how we integrate this discussion when normally what we discuss is how we regulate them or how we propose to member states to regulate. And I truly think that the only way to work with the new platforms and technologies and all the discussion on artificial intelligence is to put all stakeholders together. It doesn't work when you are trying to impose a way of controlling or making frameworks in which we should work all together. What we see today is that more fragmented it is, more divided it becomes. And from our perspective, we have very clear at UNESCO what is in stake when we are talking about diversity. We want to have diversity of cultural expressions because we are defending it, and it took a long time to get there, to have a binding instrument where we have more than 155 countries that have ratified. At the same time, we want freedom of expression on the platforms, but at the same time, ensuring that we have enough forces to allow diversity of content. We don't believe that the content should come from one truth or one side or one vision, because languages should be represented. And one of the big challenges that we had done with some of the GAFAs has been to work on diversity of languages. When we did our project with Netflix, it was to ensure, I'm quoting the major labels, whatever. We worked to ensure that when we did this project in creativity in Africa, that they can respect whatever language the creator used. And they use artificial intelligence to make 192 languages to translate it. But they accepted that the creator use his native language that is spoken by 10,000 people. Who cares? You have the transmission. So technology can support humanity, but it cannot be reversed in the sense that you cannot use technology without understanding that the creation that empower to do the work is done by creativity, by people that are behind. The algorithms are not invented by themselves. So all the discussion that today we are seeing, and after this panel of experts that was convened and made this recommendation, we truly believe that it goes in the right sense that we have been for many years, and Véronique knows about it from the beginning. Is it the right direction? Is the way that we conceive that discussion should happen, that all the partnership that we can build around the stakeholders and all the value chain will be the only way to get to something that makes sense at the ethical point of view, but also with clear framework in which we can develop it, and where those principles that in culture are fundamental can be ensured and protected and given opportunity to grow. And finally, because I heard Shane say, yes, there has to be fair remuneration. There has to be fair remuneration. We cannot continue not acknowledging that artists one day will only live in the digital sphere. And we need them to ensure to have fair retribution for their work that comes finally from this human creativity. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm very happy that, that we could work with your expert, and I hope that this, friendship will continue in time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ernesto. Thank you. The world needs UNESCO, so I think we're all here for the organization as well. Congratulations for the conference. This QR allows you guys to leave us your thoughts about the event. So hopefully we'll be better next time. We know there were questions. We're sorry, but we're happy to answer them now. Enjoy Mondiacult. See you soon, and let's continue the hard work wherever you stand on the different walks of life around culture. So thank you for your time this morning. Enjoy Mondiacult. Thank you.
I ran away from heartbreak. Got nothing in return for my pain. I never thought I'd be so empty, so alone and afraid. Wasn't looking for a lover. Nobody understood where I've been. I guess I thought I needed more time to protect my love from potential offense. So I then you and you, but I so you and I'm not surprised by what I found, 'cause I know I needed something different, and it had to be you. Out the blue, somebody who would listen, and it had to be you. Out of all the people to revive my love, couldn't be just anyone. My baby, it had to be you. I didn't seem to notice that you were checking for me. We were just